All right, so earlier today I was in my closet and God gave me this name, and it was um, Lo Rema, and it means no mercy. And this was Hosea's daughter. And essentially, um, during this time of Israel, sorry, let me start. So Israel, during the time of Hosea, were practicing idolatry, and they were faithless towards God. And their leaders were actually permitting them to do this. They actually attributed their material wealth that they had to all their idols instead of God. And so God told Hosea to go marry this faithless wife. It actually says, "Go take yourself a wife of whoredom and have children of whoredom, for the land commits great whoredom by forsaking the Lord." And one of his daughters that God told Hosea to name was Lo Ruhama, which means she has not received mercy. And I'm going to go to 2 Timothy verse 11 to 13. The saying is trustworthy. For if we have died with him, we will also live with him. If we endure, we will also reign with him. If we deny him, he also will deny us. If we are faithless, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny himself. And so, even though Israel was practicing this idolatry, God had his faithful nature, and he had his promises to Abraham. And the attitude of God, it was not only judgment for their sin, but also he was heartbroken because they kept straying from him and from this relationship that they were supposed to have with him. And so, Hosea verse 1 to 8 through 9, when Hosea's wife had weaned no mercy, she conceived and bore a son. And the Lord said, "Call his name not my people, for you are not my people, and I am not your God." Yet God was still faithful to his promise, the covenant to Abraham. As it says in the very next verse, "Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And in the place where it was said to them, 'You are not my people,' it shall be said to them, 'You are the sons of the living God.' And the children of Israel and the children of Judah shall be gathered together, and they shall appoint for themselves one head, Jesus. And they shall go up from the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel." And today, Israel is still waiting its redemption. That prophecy is still being fulfilled. It's been partially fulfilled. But Jesus is coming, and he's going to redeem Israel. So, chapter 2 of Hosea, Israel went after her lovers, and she kept playing the whore. She kept going for her idols because she thought they were making her rich. And Baal, during this time, they kept worshiping Baal because they thought Baal was making the land rain. And as we know, Elijah went against the priests of Baal, and he prayed to God that it would not rain, basically showing that Baal is powerless to bring rain upon the earth. Israel went after her lovers, thinking that they gave her riches. "Therefore I will hedge up her way with thorns, and I will build a wall against her, so that I cannot find her paths." This is Hosea chapter 2, verse 6. And then verse 8, "And she did not know that it was I who gave her the grain, the wine, and the oil, and who lavished on her silver and gold, which they used for Baal." And so God punished Israel, exposed her sins, ended her mirth, her feasts, her new moons, her Sabbath, and all her appointed feasts. And so God was punishing Israel because they forgot God, which is really sad. They forgot me, declares the Lord. She went after her lovers and forgot me, declares the Lord. And then if you look at verse 14 to 22 of chapter 2, this describes the restoration of Israel as a new permanent betrothal to God. And so, just like the way that Hosea had redeemed his wife afterwards, after she had went and committed adultery again, God redeemed Israel even though they had committed adultery with him. And in that day declares the Lord, this is verse 16, you will call me my husband, and no longer will you call me my Baal. And I will betroth you to me forever. I will betroth you to me in righteousness and in justice, in steadfast love and in mercy. I will betroth you to me in faithfulness, and you shall know the Lord. And Jesus said in John 17, verse 3, and this is eternal life, that they know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. Chapter 3, Hosea redeemed his wife. In the same way, as we have all gone astray like sheep, each to his own way, God has redeemed us, time and time again, just as we redeemed Israel, all based on his covenant to Abraham, his steadfast love. And just as God said, you will no longer call me my Baal, which means my master. It's like a taskmaster. He said, you will call me my husband. And so today, are we going back into works? Are we working for God? Are we not seeing him as a husband or a father, but as a Baal? Are we knowing God? Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. Acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will make your path straight. And this word acknowledge here in Hebrew is yauda, which means to know, to acknowledge, to be aware. The most basic meaning of the word is to know, to learn, to perceive, to discern, to experience, to know people relationally, to be made known, and to make oneself known. Knowing or not knowing persons, to know relationally and experientially. Knowing what to do or think in general, especially with respect to God. Now let's go to Matthew 8, chapter 1-11. Jesus redeemed this woman who committed adultery. The Pharisees tried to accuse her of all these sins, and she was caught in the act of adultery. And Jesus said to them, whoever is without sin, let him throw the first stone. And so the woman said, nobody's going to stone me. And so he said to her, neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on sin no more. And then in just a couple more verses, in verses 31-32, Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, if you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. To abide means to keep, to dwell in, or to continue in. So if you keep my word, if you dwell in my word, if you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. They answered him, we are offspring of Abraham, and have never been enslaved to anyone. How is it that you say you will become free? Jesus answered them, truly I say to you, everyone who practices sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not remain in the house forever. The Son remains forever. And let's remember, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And so, by that definition of truth, if Jesus is the truth, we can look at verse 32 in another way. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. In the very next verse of the verse 36, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. John chapter 1, verses 11-13. But to all who did receive him, I'm going to verse 12, sorry. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. This word, right, in Greek, is exousia, which means authority, free choice, full power, dominion, and rule. And so he gave us the authority to become sons by faith. And we keep God's word by faith. John 15. I am the vine, you are the small branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. And again, there's that word abide. Continue in, dwell in. Now he's saying abide in me. Continue in Jesus, to dwell in Jesus, to endure in Jesus, to remain in him, to live in him, and to remain united with Jesus in mind and will. Let's go back to Hosea for a bit. That's marriage. to be united with him in his will, to abide in him. And so if by faith we are united with him and abiding in him, then we're basically married to him. And he's the bridegroom who redeemed us, just like Hosea redeemed his wife. We're God's bride. Now, John 15, verse 9 to 14. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. Just as a quick reminder, it's easy to get tangled up in this, thinking, oh, well, now I have to keep his commandments again because, well, am I really a son if I still have to keep his commandments? But we got to remember it's by faith. And in James it says, if we have faith, then we will also have works. And so it's really more about trusting in him and remaining in him that we keep his commandments. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. And Jesus said this, that love is the fulfilling of the law. If we love, we'll fulfill the whole law. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. If you are my friends if you do what I command you. Now, Galatians chapter 4, verse 1 to 7. I mean that the heir, as long as he is a child, is no different from a slave, though he is the owner of everything. But he is under guardians and managers until the date set by his father. In the same way, we also, when we were children, were enslaved to the elementary principles of this world. But when the fullness of the time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, so that we might receive adoption as sons. And because you are sons, God has sent the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. So you are no longer a slave, but a son, and if a son, then an heir through God. John 14, verse 15, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. John 6, 28 to 29. This was right after they had fed the 5,000 and they crossed the Red Sea. The Red Sea? I don't think it was the Red Sea. The Sea of Galilee. And when they got to the other side, the crowds came looking for them. And they asked Jesus, what must we do? What do we have to do to be doing the works of God? Jesus said, this is the work of God, that you believe in the one whom he has sent. And so again, there's that faith qualifying us for sonship through Jesus Christ. This is the last verse. Romans 8:15, Amplified Version. For you have not received a spirit of slavery leading again to fear of God's judgment, but you have received the spirit of full adoption as sons, the Spirit producing sonship, by which we joyfully cry, Abba, Father. And so we need to remember that we're sons. And this week and this past week, personally, I've been toiling, just like Peter and the apostles were on the Sea of Galilee toiling when they needed to have faith. And when we remember that we're sons, we're not working to earn God's favor. We're working because we have God's favor. When we preached a couple of weeks, or Tiffson preached a couple of weeks ago, that we're favored people. And, I'm just going to say, you're Jesus' favorite. And he fully accepts you. And every day, it will not be easy. But Jesus said this, in this world there will be trials, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Thank you.